Ah, Smart Water, now in a sleek can.
This feels cool, literally.
Perfect for social gatherings and on the go.
Should I start wearing turtlenecks?
One sip at a time, friend. Smart Water cans, for those with a taste for taste. Get yours today.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
John McLaughlin, my good friend and Trump's pollster, to explain what's going on. Hi, John.
Hey, John.
Hello, Dick. Hello, Doug.
Hey, man.
By the way, I heard you guys were at the White House this week.
Oh, it was great. Oh, I just got to tell you a quick story, John. So Dick calls the president. We're in a meeting with this guy. It was fantastic, the idea he had. So Dick calls the president about 6 o'clock. We're at dinner. And after he gets a couple phone calls, he finally gets them. And he says, Mr. President, please, if I can have 5 minutes of your time, I have this guy and blah, 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 all this stuff, right? And the president goes, wow, that's a great idea. Call my guy, send it to my guy. And Dick goes, no, please, Mr. President, I really would like to see you for 5 minutes. He goes, Dick, I'm busy. He goes, but just give me 5 minutes. He goes, you know, Dick, I am the president of the United States. The way he said it.
Well, I not only got the 5 minutes, I got 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was great.
So, John, you asked this incredible question in your poll that is so important. You know, the one about, even if you don't agree with everything that Trump is doing, what do you think? Do you think that he has the American people's interest at heart? Why don't you read the text of the question and what your results are?
Right. Well, and by the way, it was a brand new poll. We were in the field May 21st to 26th, and we gave him the statement, while I may not agree with everything that Donald Trump and the MAGA movement says and stands for, I think they are right about putting America and the American people first. And they agree, 66-28. And you've got, what's interesting about it is Democrats 42% agree, liberals 37% agree, and Harris voters 38% agree.
Wow.
So not only do you have a unanimous Republican base, there's a lot of Democrats and independents and liberals who think that the country's been taken advantage of. We got to put ourselves first. And Dick, you already covered in your opening of the show about how the president's good policies are making good politics for us. Where policies, when they succeed, they move numbers. Like last December, we had the country on the right direction, 24, 66 wrong track. Well, you remember, like when you introduced me to Trump when Obama was president and Trump was thinking of running against Obama, 2/3 of the voters thought the country was on the wrong track. With Joe Biden, 2/3 of the country thought it was on the wrong track. And Donald Trump was giving them specific policy solutions. And now, I mean, in our poll, we've had a positive move of 36 points where it's 42 right direction, only 48 wrong track. Huge shift. Republicans on the generic for Congress, because we took the poll right after the House passed the tax cuts, which still have to get through the Senate. The Republicans' generic vote, they gained 2 points, 47-43. We have Trump's approval at 51, his disapproval only at 44.
Did I get that right? 51?
Right.
You and I have not seen a 5 in Trump's ratings in our entire career of polling for him.
That's not true. He had it on Election Day, and he had it in January around the inaugural.
Okay.
And those were his highest. And by the way, we ask it a little differently. We say, do you approve of both Trump and his policies? And you've got 38% saying that. Or do you approve of just his policies? 13%, that gives you the 51. Or do you disapprove of both? That's the 44. And that's the strategy. Remember during the campaign, how we were able to lift his job approval, would lift his favorables, so that at the end of the campaign, we're grinding up in the polls, and Trump's going to McDonald's serving food because Kamala Harris said she did, but she never did that. And Trump's going out. They called us garbage. Trump's going out with a garbage truck to his rally with a yellow vest on. And it's like his but his job, because they were willing, the contrast of the job that Trump did as president versus the really bad job that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were doing lifted his favorable, so we won the popular vote 50-48. So we got 50% of the popular, and that's what stunned people, that on election night the media had to call us a winner because they were in shock. But that's what lifted it up. That's what the strategy was. And you're seeing it now in his policies where, people, there's some tough things out there like tariffs where they're saying, that they think they help more than they hurt, 48-37. But, in the meantime, his when we polled on his tax cuts, people want the tax cuts made permanent. And we have it 64-20. They want to make it permanent.
That's great.
And he got 71% want the no tax on tips.
You remember my talk about Frank Perdue, John?
Yes.
Yeah, I call that the Frank Perdue strategy. Frank Perdue, you may recall, is a chicken magnate who his ad slogan was, "It takes a tough man to make a tender chicken." And the strategy we thought about was to make clear that only a Donald Trump could handle Washington. Nice guys finish last there. And you need somebody with a tough personality and aggressive and pugnacious to be able to tame Washington, and only Donald Trump can do that. So rather than convince people he was a nice guy and a sweet guy and a guy he'd love to go fishing with, instead it convinced them of the truth, which is that he's a tough SOB who stands his ground, who insists that his position is right, and insists that until he prevails, which he almost always does. And I call that the Frank Perdue theory.
And as he said, Dick, before he was in, he said, first of all, the 4 years that he lost just now was great because he now knows who the people are that are going to go at him, the right people to choose and use. So that was important also.
But you're seeing the Frank Perdue theory at work here, that you don't have to go around saying you're Mr. Nice Guy.
Right.
You can, in effect, almost say the opposite and still eventually get their votes. And it's much more credible to say that than to say you were wrong about Trump. He's really a nice, sweet guy.
Well, I always said, when people said, can you ask them to, simmer down? I said, you wouldn't ask General Patton to calm down in the war, right? He just wouldn't do it. That's Trump.
Yeah.
Patton.
Exactly. Well, John, go ahead.
I think there is a certain style and there's a certain sense of humor to him that, he did have the highest rated primetime TV show, Celebrity Apprentice, which is why he didn't run against Obama. He wasn't ready to leave the show. But he does, there's a quality to him that if you do get the tough business guy, but on the other hand, he's somebody who's very patriotic, he's very loyal, and the America First is really what that defines all his values. And he's, there's things he does for people that you never hear about, like when when a policeman's killed on the job or something, he'll just send a check. He'll do things, and he'll reach out and make phone calls to people that you don't realize. But it's part of the America First personality, where he puts his friends and his country first.
Absolutely. You look at the history of the phrase America First, and it comes from the isolationist period before World War II, when a group of Americans led by Charles Lindbergh, the famous pilot, objected to measures to stop Hitler and objected to increase America's defense and objected to reinstating the draft. And their movement was called America First, and it fell into disrepute, and those words were radioactive in the past. So when Trump said, "I'm embracing America First" as my slogan, I cringed. And I said, my God, do you know the history of this? But he defied the history, redefined the term,
right,
and it's now the theme of his administration. And it's really working very, very well.
And he's nothing. Go on. I'm sorry, John, you go.
No, I was saying it's true. It's like it's totally his version of America First is totally different. They were talking about isolationism. He's talking about, we're still the world's superpower, but we're going to take care of our friends. We want to keep the world at peace. We want growing economies, but we just don't want people taking advantage of us anymore.
Right.
So That's his America first, and it help. He's really what he cares about is the heartland of the United States, the Sun Belt, the Rust Belt, the people that are outside the Beltway that are working hard. He doesn't want them paying taxes to give free health care to illegal immigrants. He doesn't want people to worry about their safety because the border's been invaded. So he he does want peace in Ukraine and Russia. He does want to see, Israel secure. He wants to make sure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. That's not isolationism. But it's certainly America first.
Yeah,
and he's so different in person, isn't he, John? I mean, I've been with him many times, working with him in Mar-a-Lago and even at the Oval Office Wednesday. He's just so different in person than he is on TV. He's a different guy. Like even Bill Maher said it. He visited the White House, and he even said it.
This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today.
You guys got to stop watching CNN and MSNBC. That's all that fake news. Don't go for that.
Oh my God! It's
the
horrible.
genuine article. By the way, he's a New Yorker, and he has a New York sense of humor. A guy who's raised in Queens, who has gone through the toughness of New York's business community. So his sense of humor, sometimes when he talks about things, and he likes to get a rise out of people.
I love it.
He'll do things like when he talks about running again for president in 2028. That's his kind of New York sense of humor to drive the liberal media crazy.
Give him
Stick
something
it to him.
Yeah,
stick it to him.
Give him something to bitch about.
The progression, though, just as a polling person, to appreciate this, from the first stage, which is I agree with some of his positions on issues, but I don't like the guy, to the second stage, which is I agree with his positions on issues, but he'll never get it done. And then the next step is I agree with his positions on issues, and it looks like he's getting it done, but he's still a son of a gun. And now it's finally I agree with his positions on issues. He is getting it done, and he still is not a nice guy, but I like him because of what he does. And he's going through those phases like a butterfly in metamorphosis. And I think it's wonderful to watch that.
I think he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, just don't cross him.
Yeah.
Well, that's like any New Yorker.
You're right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
great.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate the perspective. And this was a neat bit of polling at the start of the campaign, in 2020. John and I decided that when we went beyond the normal question, which is, do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of Donald Trump, we would then do a follow-up question, which is, if they said an unfavorable view, we would say, what do you object to? What do you think of his positions on issues and his accomplishments? And we found that the people who said, I disapprove of him personally, flipped and approved of what he's done. And then we learned that they flipped and approved of his policies. And now we're seeing this all seeping through and increasingly becoming just a flat-out favorable opinion of Trump. And it's really a wonderful progression to watch.
Yep. And by the way, thank you, Dick, you're the one back in 2011 when Trump was taking a run against President Obama. You're the one who connected us. And fortunately, he made us look good. That he's proven our polls right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, that is the other incredible thing about Donald Trump. He doesn't follow the polls; he makes the polls.
Right.
No,
he shapes them. He creates them.
It's what I call probiotic polling. He does it by gut. So if his probiotics are good, the polls come out right. If his probiotics are bad, then we got to take the poll and go talk to him and see if we can adjust things. But it's probiotic polling. It's all by gut. So
That's a great.
He always
That's a great
worked.
line, John.
He always says, "Oh, I hate polls. I hate polls." And Dick's trying to get him. He goes, "Dick, you don't go to the bathroom without taking a poll."
He said that. Yeah.
He actually said that to him.
Well, thank you, John. This
Thanks,
was great.
John.
Thanks for being existing.
Thank you,
and
Dick. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks for helping the president.
All right, brother.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.